There are many things we should all know about Sidney Crosby. Most of them are pretty obvious. For example, the guy is a two-time Olympic champion, three-time Stanley Cup winner, and an ice hockey prodigy. He scored the game-winning overtime goal against arch rivals, the United States, to give Canada gold on home ice at the Vancouver 2010 Olympics, before leading his country to a second consecutive Olympic title in Sochi 4 years later. But then there is some insane stuff that no one noticed about him, amid all of his brilliant achievements. Now, we'll find all that out later on in the video, but first, let's see how he has actually done in the sport that he's known for, the NHL. Sidney Crosby was born on August 7, 1987 in Cole Harbour, Nova Scotia, Canada. Crosby, the son of a hockey player, as his father, Troy, a goalkeeper, was picked by the Montreal Canadiens in 1984. He began learning to skate at the age of 3. By the age of 7, he had significantly outperformed other children his age in terms of talent. The disparity expanded year after year. Crosby scored 159 goals in 55 games for his hometown youth team in 1997 when he was only 10 years old. Crosby thrived even against older teenagers, demonstrating puck skills that drew notice across Canada. He fled to Minnesota after being denied the opportunity to play for the Halifax Mooseheads, which was the local junior hockey team. He enrolled at Shattuck St. Mary's Prep School and set several new scoring records there, including 162 points in 2003 and leading his team to the national championship. Crosby returned to Canada the next season when he continued to dominate in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. That year, he scored an incredible 135 points, including 54 goals, and was invited to play for the Canadian junior hockey team, becoming the club's first under-18 player. Now, Crosby went on to become the World Junior Championship's youngest ever goal scorer, and he subsequently returned to Quebec for a second season in the QMJHL, where he scored 66 goals and cemented his position as the world's finest young prospect. Crosby was compared to some of hockey's all-time greats in North America, including Wayne Gretzky and Bobby Orr. The Pittsburgh Penguins picked Crosby first overall in the 2005 National Hockey League Draft, known as the Sidney Crosby Sweepstakes. Crosby swiftly adjusted to the NHL, becoming the team's best player after working closely with retiring Penguins icon Mario Lemieux. By the end of the 2005-2006 season, Crosby had established himself as one of the league's finest young players with 102 points. However, Crosby only improved during his second year. Despite playing the last 6 weeks with a broken bone in his foot, he finished with 120 points, 28 goals, and 84 assists. Now that year, Crosby became the youngest player in league history to win the Art Ross Trophy as scoring champion. More importantly, he became the second youngest player in league history to win the Hart Trophy as the most valuable player. Crosby was able to hoist aloft hockey's ultimate prize in 2009 as he guided Pittsburgh to its first Stanley Cup victory since 1992. He began the 2007-2008 season as the team's captain and led them to the 2008 Stanley Cup Finals. However, they were defeated by the Detroit Red Wings in 6 games. The Penguins rebounded to the finals the next year, defeating Detroit in 7 games. And this was the time when Crosby became the NHL's youngest captain to win the Stanley Cup. Now, despite his domination, Crosby's career has been plagued by concussions. Crosby was knocked down by then Washington Capitals center David Steichel during the Winter Classic game in Pittsburgh on New Year's Day 2011. The accident prompted Crosby to miss the rest of the season, fueling speculation that his career was at risk. But after a tumultuous and inconsistent 2011-2012 season in which he played just 22 games, Crosby returned to full strength the following year, scoring 56 points in a 36-game season cut short by a lockout. In addition to his NHL success, Crosby helped Team Canada to the gold medal at the 2010 Winter Olympics in Vancouver, Canada. And at the 2010 Vancouver Olympics, Crosby gave Olympic and Canadian hockey fans an unforgettable thrill: an overtime golden goal over arch rivals the United States, which many consider Canada's single greatest sporting moment. His celebration in Vancouver was worthy of a statue. Apart from that, Crosby's 2010-2011 season had a 25-game point streak that ended suddenly. He was hit in the head in a string of games, beginning with the Winter Classic versus the Capitals at Heinz Field. He missed the last 41 regular season games and the Penguins' 7 postseason games due to concussion-like symptoms. Crosby then doubled down 4 years later in the Sochi 2014 Games, captaining the team to a second consecutive gold medal, cementing his place as an Olympic icon. But then, the controversy arose. Back in 2017, a UN report was released rejecting discrimination against black people in Canada, highlighting the deplorable conditions faced by African Nova Scotians. This news was published shortly after the Pittsburgh Penguins announced their intention to visit the White House, and it contrasted sharply with the statements of superstar Sidney Crosby. While talking about his visit, Crosby said, "It's a great honor to be invited there." His remarks came as Donald Trump slammed black players opposing police violence, claiming they should be fired for disrespecting the flag. Following his statements, players from all 28 NFL teams kneeled in solidarity during the U.S. national anthem, and when faced with sportsmen opposing police brutality and systemic racism, the Penguins chose to side with Trump. Any pretense that their visit to the White House was apolitical was quickly destroyed by Trump's delighted tweet congratulating them as a great team. According to many hockey lovers, Crosby could have spoken on the racism and injustice, however, he chose to side with Trump, causing a backlash that the player himself did not see coming. At the time of the controversy, there may not have been a clear which side are you on moment. When word of the Penguins' weakness spread in Nova Scotia, home of the Colored Hockey League, which was supposed to have invented butterfly goaltending and the slap shot, several African Nova Scotians backed Sid the Kid. But there was a majority of people who argued that he had a black roommate last season and had even attended his mother's funeral. However, this happy attitude all fell apart when Crosby was discovered to have informed the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette that he saw the visit as an opportunity. But he also stated that there was little to no discussion in the locker room about the choice to leave. Now, it is no secret that the Pittsburgh Penguins captain had suffered considerable criticism on social media for his choice to support the team's planned visit to the White House. However, opposition also traveled to the surface in his hometown, where Crosby was generally afforded a godlike status. There were also some who asked him to show unity with NFL players and others who were protesting Trump for criticizing the league's players for refusing to stand during the national anthem. At the time, advocates had defended Sidney Crosby, who was 30 at the time and hometown hero from Nova Scotia, claiming that as a Canadian, he simply did not comprehend race issues in America. They contended that Canada did not face similar racial concerns. But according to most people, the UN study detailing all the ways black people had encountered injustice in Canada from enslavement to the present, and there were many who claimed that this culture should be stopped and should come to an end. Many also believe that Crosby grew up in a province where black hockey players, descendants of slaves, helped pioneer the sport. 2 race riots occurred at Cole Harbor High School during his lifetime. They also claim that if somebody was unaware of racism, it was not because it did not exist. Rather, he had chosen not to notice it. Now, Crosby has been a great hockey player, and there is no doubt about it, but there are some of his decisions that haven't really brought any good for him, and, well, that was one of those.